The last piece of the puzzle is your connection with God. A lot of people, they don't believe in God. A lot of people, they don't want to speak about these things. They don't want to even get into religion because they think religion is this bad thing. This all comes from not really understanding, not really looking more into it, looking more in depth and actually reflecting about these things. But I found very early on that if I don't have a connection with God, then I fall into hedonism. And hedonism is basically where you're just all about your desires, all about feeling good. And now let me ask you a question. If you're all about your desires, you're all about feeling good, eventually you're going to want to relapse and watch pornography, because let's be honest, it feels good. Maybe after you don't feel good, but in the moment you feel pretty damn good because of all the dopamine that's being released. And then you have to think as well, if you don't believe in God, or if you're not even close to God, at some point you're going to start thinking to yourself, well, what's the point of this? Why am I even doing this in the first place? Like, what's the big deal if I go and relapse for a little bit and I just come back and just get back at it? You need to have a higher level of accountability, and it's only possible when you put God first, when you actually believe in God and you actually try to get closer to God, make your life revolve more around God. You know, throughout my entire life, I can't say that I was always atheist. Right? I'm not atheist right now, thank God. But in the beginning, when I was born, my mom, she taught my sister and I about Catholicism. Then, you know, she ended up getting with the guy who was Christian, and we practiced Christianity for a while. Then I became atheist because my sister's nephew passed away, and I couldn't understand why. Why at 7 months old would God take this kid? I couldn't understand. And when I was in the church, in the service, people were trying to consolidate me. They're trying to make me feel better, and I would ask them the same question. I'll say, why? Like, if God is real, then why? Like, why would something like this happen? And all the answers they gave me just wasn't good. It wasn't good enough. Which caused me to close off for a long time, caused me to be atheist, and you know, I was only choosing to not believe because I was so hurt from what had happened. And perhaps that's why many people who are atheists, they choose not to believe, because they got hurt at some point. But who knows, right? Everyone has their reasons. Now here's the thing. When I didn't believe in God, I was all over the place. I was over here doing things that, let's just say they were very degenerate things. Things that are not healthy, not beneficial by any means whatsoever. And I was over here watching pornography minimum 6 times a day. I was spending hours every single day watching pornography. Why? Because I didn't think there was a problem with it. I felt good releasing, so why the hell not? Now when I started doing the whole NoFap thing, that's when I got to the point where I was like, if I don't have the spiritual side, then it all sort of just becomes meaningless. Like, yeah, you feel good after a while, but then you hit a point where you can't get past the thought that comes in your head, which is, what the hell is the point of this all? And if you have no answer for that, then you're gonna fall back and relapse. And I remember that at the time I was experiencing this, and I kept relapsing. And I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And I was like, you know what? I just want to feel better. I still didn't believe in God at this time. I just want to feel better. So what I did is I looked into meditation. And then from the meditation, I started to experience more at peace, more calm, more level-headed. And I started to feel spiritual, but I didn't believe in God. I felt spiritual. And this led me to having experiences that really, like, words can't explain. And when I had these experiences, it cemented the fact that, okay, God is real. I don't know what God is, but God is real. I'm not religious. I guess you could say I'm spiritual, but God is real. That's what I was at the time. Once that happened for me, that's when the success started coming. And I noticed that any time that I would try to get closer to what I thought God was, the journey would become easier. When I would stray, when I would get further away from God and just forget about it more and more, the more difficult the journey became. The more difficult abstaining and not going back and relapsing became. And this is what led me to realize, okay, God is a very vital piece of the puzzle. At the time, I didn't know it was the final piece of the puzzle. I just knew it was a vital, very vital piece of the puzzle. And this led me to try to do what I was doing already, which was like meditations and reading some spiritual books and stuff like that. And for me, that's kind of allowed me to get closer to God, but really, it was periodic. There were times where sometimes I would get close, and other times I'd be just off doing degenerate things again. Not relapsing, but again, not doing things that are beneficial. And this would just lead me to getting back to a place where I was struggling. Even though I was born free and I was essentially out of the reboot stage, like I was months into it, I still struggled. I still had fantasies and all these thoughts coming in and urges. And then that's what led me to actually look deeper and say, you know what, this whole time I've been averted from religion for such a long time. Let me actually start looking into it. I mean, they can't just, if it's been around for such a long time, like there has to be something to it, right? So then I looked into Christianity again. I looked into Buddhism. I looked into Hinduism. I looked into Taoism. I looked into all the isms, honestly. I started even practicing all of these just to like really, really try to implement it in my life and see for myself, like, okay, is this it? Is this actually gonna do it for me? And I'm gonna be honest, like none of them did it. And that led me to just kind of believing in God, but not really having a way to practice and a way to get closer to God. So again, I didn't solve anything. I was still in the same place. And I tried staying in this place for a while until eventually I had done a dopamine detox. And in the dopamine detox, this is where I felt this pull to read the Quran, which is the holy book, the scripture of Islam. Now, long story short, because I know I'm going on here, right? What the hell is the point of this? The point of this is that in order to get closer to God, in order to have this connection all the time with God, you need to live in a way which allows you to do so. How can you live in a way which allows you to do so if you don't have proper guidelines? Right? Like this whole little course thing that I'm giving you guys here, this is a guideline in order to overcome the addiction. So in order to come closer to God, you need guidelines as well. And from what I found Islam to be the guidelines. You can have your own guidelines. I'm not here trying to force you or tell you anything. But if you don't have any guidelines, I highly, highly recommend that you look into Islam, or any religion for that matter. Just start looking, start trying to find a way, because you need to understand that if you really want to overcome this addiction, if you really want to be free, you have to be close to God. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you're atheist and you don't believe, I'm sorry, bro, like it's not gonna work. Like you're gonna constantly be relapsing for the rest of your life if you don't put your ego down and just accept that there's a God and try to get closer to God, try to understand what God is at all. Right, so depending where you're at in the journey, this is going to dictate what you're gonna do next here. Right, if you don't believe, well, you should probably start meditating. That'd be a nice start. If you believe in God, but you really don't have a way, then you start looking at different ways, different religions. If you've been looking at different religions, or you've been practicing a certain religion, but it's not doing it for you, keep looking, keep practicing different ones, right? And do so little by little. Don't try to like overwhelm yourself and go all in all at once. But just do little by little until you get to the point where you can have that connection with God. You can live in a way where you are close to God, and then you will see for yourself. You will see for yourself the effect that that has on your journey in terms of recovering from this addiction. Because I've coached many people, so many people in the past years. Each and every single one of them. It wasn't until they started getting closer to God that they really, really, really noticed the difference that that makes in their life in terms of this addiction. Right, so try for yourself and see, program it, and just go from there.